incarceration rates in America has been a problem, especially as opposed to minorities. Do you think we've made any headway in the
I think it's more important to make headway in our own house.
Why did he need a black director? Could a white director not have?
It's not color, it's culture.
I was a garbage man, like Troy. You get 8 hours worth of work, but you can do it in 3. So you can go home as soon as you finish. Post office, you get 3 hours worth of work and you make it last 8.
That ain't funny. So to me, it wasn't funny about putting a rope around my MFing neck.
Hollywood is finally facing the consequences of years of discrimination, racism, and exploitation after famous actors like Denzel Washington are coming forward with jaw-dropping revelations about the industry. Denzel has exposed one of the darkest and deepest secrets of this shiny, perfect world of Hollywood. The industry is said to be killing young artists, and Denzel is not ready to stay silent any longer. What has the actor revealed? Let's find out.
The many sacrifices you made for the culture on film sets through your career, the things you refused to compromise along the way, laid the blueprints for us to follow.
Denzel Washington is without a doubt one of the finest actors to ever grace the screens. He's universally loved and cherished for his remarkable acting and charming personality. Hollywood loved him and respected him until very recently. Now, however, the Equalizer actor has made enemies thanks to his outspoken and honest nature. Hollywood has some dirty secrets it doesn't want exposed, and Denzel has done just that. Denzel doesn't think Hollywood actors and executives are untouchables.
They weren't bad jobs. It's like people say, the difficulty of making a movie. I'm like, send your son to Iraq. That's difficult. It's just a movie. It's like, relax.
Denzel has ripped the facade right off this elitist industry and exposed how black men and people of color are still mistreated like the old times. Samuel L. Jackson talked about this in one of his interviews.
I learned how to, conduct myself around the superior race in an interesting sort of way. You don't look people in the eye, but I did because I didn't know any better.
Black people still face discrimination in all paths of life, but more so in this line of work where all the high positions of power seem to be occupied by white people. Samuel recalled how he didn't realize the extent of the problem until he saw his grandfather literally shaking in front of a white man.
Grandfather's like almost 70, and there's a 20-year-old kid talking to my grandfather like he was, he called him boy, and my grandfather was like, yes sir, Mr. Son, and I'd be like, something wrong with this dynamic.
But despite Hollywood's insistence to keep this divide between the white man and the minorities intact, brave men like Denzel are finally revealing the cold hard truths. Denzel is a refreshing change of pace from the Tinseltown elite who genuinely think they not only know better than you, but they are better than you. But the reality seems to be much different. Rumors have it that the whole structure of the entertainment industry rests on the labors of young artists, rappers, and actors who don't get paid enough for their contributions. This tale of Hollywood exploiting artists is as old as time. Many of the artists who have managed to stay afloat despite all this recall how hard it can be to start a career because of these men in power abusing their privileges. Dave Chappelle recalls how he was robbed of his own jokes by older comedians when he was just starting out.
I was a 15-year-old child. This guy was a grown man. He stood up over me so I could see how big he was. And he said to me, really? I can just take it.
If someone as accomplished as Dave Chappelle has suffered at the hands of the executives and lost his rightful earnings and fame, then anyone can imagine how it might be for younger artists.
But in my career, it has happened many, many times since, where someone would intimidate me or scare me and take something that I believe was mine.
For years, Hollywood has taken advantage of young, naive artists and underpaid them for their work. In his special stand-up routine, Dave talked about how he got a bad comedy deal while the executives were the only ones making good money off of his work. I'm not up here trying to tell you guys that I believe that Comedy Central gave me a raw deal just because I'm black. I believe that they gave me a raw deal because this industry is a monster. Dave doesn't shy away from hard truths either, and spoke about how taking away someone's rights to their work is the same as killing them.
Taking a man's livelihood away from him is akin to killing him.
Dave is just one of many black artists who are being denied their rightful earnings because of the greed of the industry.
I was exhausted. They wrongly diagnosed me, and they when I asked them how much
lithium did you want to put me on exactly? It took them 4 days to answer because they were embarrassed about the amount.
Fans commented on an obvious pattern in the industry. One wrote, "Black rappers and comedians are free to denigrate black people and white men a million different ways, but there's a line they better not cross, and everybody knows it. Hollywood has always kept black artists at bay, be it rappers or actors. So many talented people didn't get to see the fruits of their hard work because the elites in the industry could not bear to see black men flourish. The truth is, a lot of artists don't even get to own the music they make."
As a young artist, a lot of times you coming in the game, you're not gonna own your masters.
Yeah.
Because not who's there to really educate them.
Young artists are allegedly being robbed of their life's work, and this practice isn't new to the industry. Previously, black artists were deprived of their earnings, and they didn't know any better, so they stayed quiet. Fortunately, some still had the courage to speak up, such as Prince.
The way I looked at it, I owned the work because I paid for it, and I did all the work. I created it, so I felt like it should belong to me. That said, the companies felt otherwise.
For Denzel, this exploitation wasn't even the problem getting into the industry. When he first started, there were no black men to take inspiration from. Denzel recalled how he never saw black people in movies growing up. How could he dream of breaking into an industry if he could see no role models? "I started acting in the theater at Fordham University, and we were snobs and thought we'd make $650 on Broadway one day. But I started seeing Taxi Driver, Mean Streets, Straight Time, Marathon Man, movies that starred anybody with an O, Pacino, De Niro, Hoffman-O. I didn't see anybody who looked like me, so I didn't aspire to act in movies, but I liked those New York movies." Even after years of working in the best projects, Denzel still feels like the term leading man isn't meant for someone like him. Maybe it's the years of conditioning that doesn't let him look at himself as the lead, but rather as just an actor. There are all categories. Leading man is something that someone calls you when you do press junkets. I'm not a leading man, I'm an actor, and so you get the part and interpret it. A lot of times, racism against black people is so obvious and blatant in the entertainment world that it leaves you shocked. Denzel, despite being an award-winning actor, was offered this stereotypical and racist script that involved a black man assaulting a white woman.
I got a part in a movie in 1986. I called it the Couldn't Kill. Oh. Yeah, he was supposed to be a white woman, and they tried to electrocute him, but it didn't work. And he became sort of a cult hero. No, not that one. That was the other awful one. But and then they tried to hang him, and they tried to do all this stuff.
Needless to say, Washington found it offensive and not humorous at all. This film is just one in a long list of movies that further push the stereotypes about minorities. This also wasn't the only time Denzel himself faced the prejudice and hatred of the industry. Rumors have it that the Hollywood executives have been pushing out black artists from the awards races till very recently. Even actors as accomplished as Denzel have stories to tell of this injustice. The two-time Academy Award winner recalls how white and racist the award shows can be. "I've been the guy at the Oscars without my name being called. I've been the guy at the Oscars when my name is called. I've been the guy at the Oscars when everybody thought they were going to call my name and they didn't, so I've lived it." Now, Hollywood might have changed in some apparent ways. Now there are black actors and black rappers apparently succeeding, but a closer look into things reveals a more sinister and jaw-dropping problem. The Hollywood elites haven't suddenly decided to stop being racist by letting black artists prosper. Instead, they are allegedly using these artists as pawns in their own game. Someone took to Twitter to warn people of this evil plan of the industry. They use rap music to control the world. Why do you think most rappers are black? Lots of black people rapping about drugs and violence and guns leads to lots of black crime. They do this to divide and conquer. Another wrote, now that they have the help from the MSM in Hollywood, MSM owns private prisons, which is the most corrupt corporation in the US. They require 90% occupancy at all times. Media requires rap, movies, TV shows that glorify gang life. Media, enemy of the country. Many believe that black artists are used by the industry to promote violence. This YouTuber gives a look at that point of view.
Even the rappers out there, the rappers, the drill rappers that are in gangs and rapping about what? Y'all support y'all support gang
One person wrote, "We can ignore the damage and destruction of those who profit from the guns and violence in our communities, or we can heed the words of Dr. BW and take action to unite against these forces. How many young black rappers themselves have been cut down? It's a long and growing list." Some conspiracy theories suggest that not only would promoting violence keep the minority communities under check, it would also help the entertainment industry executives fill up their pockets. As bizarre and crazy as that sounds, there have been many rumors about the Hollywood executives benefiting from the private prison industry. And from that point of view, what better way for them to fill up the prisons than by using their platforms to promote crimes, even if it comes at the cost of their artists? A former executive producer openly admitted to it and said,
"A bunch of young black male rappers keep dying. You know who's not dying? Record executives. The record executives that push for them to continue to make songs and create a culture that is obsessed with death, drugs, and
The executive openly claimed that the record labels were killing their artists for profits. Many of the executives in the entertainment industry also own shares in the private prison industry. The executives don't just want the artists dead to get money off of their life's work. They also want to promote violence so that more and more people will end up in prison. Some of the most prominent companies in the entertainment industry are channeling funds into a system that profits from mass incarceration and family detention centers, causing anguish and suffering to countless immigrant families. Ice Cube talked about this in an interview with Bill Maher.
The kind of stuff in rap lyrics works as a funnel to get people inspired to do the kind of things that would get them in prison.
The rapper delved into the intricate web of connections, dropping hints about influential figures who remain nameless but who allegedly hold both music labels and private prisons under their command. According to him, following the money trail would lead to a jaw-dropping revelation.
I don't know their names, Bill, but if you follow the money, you go high enough, you start to see.
Hollywood shamelessly glorifies gun violence and makes it seem cool and acceptable so that more and more people will commit crimes and end up in prison. One Twitter user wrote, "Hollywood has been partly responsible for mass shootings in America because of glorified gratuitous gun violence in its movies, especially during the last 2 decades." Another wrote, "Hollywood has spent the last 35 years normalizing the killing and suffering of black people through movies and music labels. Denzel Washington has spent his life speaking out about the rights of young artists. He believes race shouldn't be the reason anyone gets deprived of opportunities." In an interview, he stated, "You know, in my humble opinion, we ought to be at a place where diversity shouldn't even be mentioned, like it's something special. These young kids, black, white, blue, green, or whatever, are highly talented and qualified, so that's why they're here. Diversity shouldn't even be mentioned, like it's something special." He does believe in putting God first in everything he does. Everybody deserves an equal chance to showcase their talents, and everybody deserves to be fairly compensated for their work. The exploitation of young artists needs to end so that everybody gets fairly compensated for their work.